Carlos, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm really looking forward to this conversation. There's a lot to go over, and there's a lot of cool stuff that your organization is working on. So, first and foremost, welcome. And I'd love to
Thank
hear
you.
a little bit about your backgrounds. Like, what brought you into Hatchfi?
Yeah, so my name is Carlos Feliciano, originally from New Jersey, moved out to Silicon Valley to do that thing. Spent about 12, 13 years out there. Worked in infrastructure, DevOps, operations, ran support teams. I've pretty much dabbled all over the infrastructure and integration space at small startups and enterprises. So my background definitely functions around what we build now, and just maintaining and keeping these large production things up and running. So that's where my background comes from. Before that, I worked in the service industry. Uh, I worked in sales, done a bunch of other different gigs, but really fell in love with just like keeping things running, making sure things are built well, solid. And I found that passion inside of doing infrastructure, and Silicon Valley gave me that opportunity to do so, um, and to see how basically they say the sausage is made on the inside to keep these users happy and keep everything up and running. And that's pretty much what got me. And I've been in crypto on the side just as a hobbyist since like 2016. So
Early
both
adopter.
my co, yeah, it feels late, but
I know.
um, yeah, that was fun. Kind of rode that roller coaster and then fell off a little bit, and then around 2019, 2020, kind of fell back into it because I wanted to learn about money. So I was never really good at economics, so I started falling in love with that, and then I finally understood. I was like, oh, this all makes sense. I was like, money will always change. Money, it's different. Everybody uses something different at some point in time. This is like probably the next best thing we have, right? And how do we do it and push back and all that? So, um, yeah, it's kind of, I pretty much combine the passion for both and just, trying to improve personal finance and for myself and just my family. And that's how I kind of aligned all these stars together. And then my co-founder and I started Hatchfi.
Oh, fantastic. So, give me a little bit of a understanding about how Hatchfi works, what you're focused in on there. I think I have an understanding of it in terms of the
Mhm.
background, in terms of people to get on and easy access to maybe leveraging their wallet into various sites. Is that right, or am I totally off?
No, it's pretty much right. I think so the perspective we took was we originally had built a finance platform, like a personal budgeting platform, like YNAB, your mint.com. And we found it just extremely difficult to build the integrations. And my co-founder and I are very technical in infrastructure and software design and architecture. And it was just like, it just took a lot of time, even with the APIs, if you had to know what data you were getting in the first place back to even know what to do with it. And it was just hard to find a clean option. I was like, man, I wish I had Plaid for crypto. Very simple. I want to be able to drop this modal in. My mom needs to be able to look at it and say, if she had a Coinbase account, she should be able to connect it and be like, this was easy, right? And she hits the button, the Staples button on the side of the screen, right? And then we get all the data back, and it should be clean and cleansed and structured. And that's the approach we took, and that's the perspective we've been building towards. In my experience in Web 2, working at both, again, small startups and enterprises, um, I'm a solutions architect by trade. So just trying to get people to adopt cloud infrastructure, for example, was extremely difficult. And it's still something that companies are still struggling with nowadays. And I'm like, if this is any telling story of what, crypto adoption is going to be like, we have a long road ahead of us. They're still functioning. There's a lot of red tape, a lot of fire hurdles to jump over and things like that to get these types of products adopted. And we need to build towards that. And that's the approach we took and the perspective we took with Hatchfi.
So, could you take me through a scenario of how this would actually work from the user? I know that you're primarily, I think, like more B2B-ish, right? So you're
Mhm.
helping building the infrastructure here. But like the end user, what would they actually anticipate seeing or doing, or how they would interact with a site when
Yeah.
they finally tapped into this?
So let's say developers building a tax platform or an accounting platform for digital assets, crypto, right? They want to do crypto assets. They will go to use our API. They'd sign up. They'd install our product or our API onto their platform with our SDK, or just with lines of code, a few lines of code. And to the end user, so it becomes B2B and then B2C. The end user would then log on to that. Say, I'm ready to do my taxes. I log on to that tax platform or accounting platform. and I go ahead and I'm like, I need to connect my accounts, right? I need my who I sent it to, who I got it from. I need that money in USD pricing, right? Or that, Ethereum and USD pricing. So to me, as an end user, when I log onto your platform, I pretty much click the connect button, and then I get a pop-up modal that says like, hey, you're safely and securely connecting, click continue, and then you have an option to pick from over 280 different wallets, exchanges, and blockchains. Um, Depending on what you're logging into, some might take a pair of keys, some might use a regular login, like name, username, password. Others might just take your wallet address. And what we do is to you, the end user, it looks just like a plaid. It's just like connecting a bank account, right? I put, oh, okay, I need my address. Here's my address from my wallet, from all the Ethereum I bought. I'm going to go ahead and put this in. We then run that against the blockchain. We pull that data in and we sanitize it and cleanse it so that the developer, the person building the platform themselves, can then take all that information and surface it to you, the end user, right? So in the end result would be like me looking at a portfolio tracker and then seeing all of my transactions that took place out of my wallet for the past however many years I had my wallet. And then from there, they can go ahead and build, cost basis analysis, and they can do all their, stuff with the data once they have that data.
So many questions. So
Ask away.
do you, do you see yourselves? Are you at all an Oracle, or no? You're just a bunch of APIs behind the scenes. They're connecting into like Etherscan in the example you just described, looking at the on-chain data.
Yeah, so pretty much for exchanges, we connect to exchange APIs. We have API keys. We'll pull in all your trades, your advanced trades, your staking, your balances, all this information, right? So you don't want the IRS knocking at your door. You need this information. Right now, you usually pull it via CSV from an exchange, for example. That's the best case scenario, right? So that's how that works. But pretty much we used to use Etherscan, but we're working with companies and partnering with companies to host our own node services. So we'll actually, and because this is where my infrastructure kind of comes in, where I really care about highly available, highly reliable endpoints, right? And I can't trust Etherscan as much as it's a great product, right? I would rather have more control over my own nodes, for example, right? Exchanges, there's not much you can do. You connect to an exchange, the exchange goes down, so be it, that exchange is down via the API. But as far as like having nodes up and running, we build our own indexers, and we do our best to build our own indexers to pull that data in, and then we query those indexers or our database to pull that data over.
Wow.
Yeah, so we're slowly rolling to get to that type of reliability and availability, so that there's no point in connecting an account if you can only get data 5 out of 7 days out of the week. As simple
Wow.
as that.
Yeah.
So,
Wow. I mean, that's amazing. So with this branch out, clearly, like an H&R Block could potentially leverage something like this, but like would a
yeah,
Schwab or Fidelity, Robinhood, would all of those potentially use something like this as well?
of course, we found that accounting and taxes were the biggest early adopters, but pretty much they all suffer from the same problem, regardless of small company, big company. At some point, it's like a economies of scale problem, right? It's like you hit that tipping point, and it's just like, this is so expensive. I'm just paying for a bunch of engineers to maintain these things, and then you're committed, right? You're already committed. Or you get to a certain point, you're like, oh, I would like to outsource this, right? I need to focus on more like the engines. Um, the banks and institutions tend to be they're slow movers. They are looking for opportunities to use a product like this inside of their platform, right? Whether it just be a portfolio tracker or anything like that, right? Just so their customers can then see their digital assets. What we like to call it is our general term, the DevOps term is, we're increasing observability for your data. Because once someone like a Fidelity or Visa or MasterCard has you, the user, connecting your digital assets to their account, to their platform, excuse me, they can then go ahead and offer services. They can help you with moving your assets around. They can help you benefit or increase yield on those assets, for example, or monitor them so that you do have your digital asset like insurance platforms, where it's just like, oh, okay, cool. I connect my accounts. If someone hacks my account, I see this weird behavior happening, and then we will then surface that, right? So that platform can then make a decision and offer you a service or help you do something with that data.
Amazing. So what comes to mind for me around this is out of curiosity, could you go a step further, or is this something that you would ever think about that relates to it? Not necessarily in the accounting aspect of it, but some people talk about self-sovereign identity, right? And whether or not we get there,
Mhm.
people will maybe eventually in time have more greater ownership of their own assets via this crypto world, right? So they'll have the digital wallet, they'll have all their assets connected to it, be it NFTs or digital land or maybe their own identity. Do you
Mhm.
see this as another mechanism such that if I go to a website and people have the ability to sort of log in instead of logging in with a Google account or Facebook account or whatever the case is, they could identify, and if they need any bits of information in their digital wallet, they could do so via this like connect into that. Does that make sense in this world?
It does. The only friction I see there, and this is something that was a big topic in ETH Denver, was it's the world still runs on Web2, and so it's more of a user experience dilemma that it is like the benefits I receive from doing like an identity, having it in a wallet, right? For those who know how to take advantage of it, yes, it makes total sense, and I think it's something that we'd love to like um, to adopt onto the into the platform, right, where we can better control the identity and better separate out the user. We do our best um, to keep it agnostic as far as data for each user goes, so we don't store information we do. Um, we're SOC 2 Type 1 compliant. We do make sure that everything's stored is encrypted and encrypted threads and all that. And we don't have any identifying items or assets to the user, right? So you can't tie anybody in with what the data is stored in the first place. But back to the identity part, it is really a user experience dilemma that comes into most people who would benefit from this are still skeptical about the space in the first place. So it's just going to be a time will tell thing.
Okay. Okay. So maybe switching to the assets in general, are you just talking about crypto or you're talking about maybe DAO tokens, talking about NFTs, what POAPs, whatever, like what's I'm
Well,
assuming all of it's available.
uh, yes, we do our best. So we right now the initial focus was very clean, high quality transaction transfers, internal transfers, balances. We just started putting in NFT data for certain chains, right, to build the picture. For us, the next step will be like LP tokens, the staking part, right? Figuring out what a particular contract has in the DeFi world. Um, Once we have more resources available, we will then start diving into that, right? To build a very clean, high quality data layer in between for the users to consume and to use. And then we'd eventually like to explore automation, this manipulation of assets, and this again more like a DevOps systems type of perspective, but definitely exploring the manipulation and moving of assets between traditional and digital and back and forth and vice versa, um, to see how you could build pipelines almost with your finances.
Excellent. Dare I ask, how many different blockchains are you involved with? And I think you're also dealing with layer twos as well.
Yes, so we support, I believe at this point, 28 different blockchains. We're adding more
Got it.
um, as we see fit. And then we actually, so the biggest thing is when we go back and try to make it more robust, we try to deploy our own nodes. Again, it's always like what the customer needs, and then we try to make it a cornerstone in our product. We support about 11 exchanges so far. Hard part is, to be completely honest, is getting keys to test.
Hmm.
Everything's regionally dependent. So it's like when we have a customer in a certain country, they help us, vice versa. They provide us with keys for us to test and things like that, so that we're pulling in the right data. And then we also build our own wallet connections, but we also support over 220, 230 different wallets with Wallet Connect. So we leverage open source Wallet Connect, which actually just all we do is authenticate the wallet so that you can connect with your phone or your browser wallet. And then from there, we just say you are the owner of this address. We then take that address and then run it against our endpoints.
I honestly didn't realize there's that many wallets at this point because I thought I mean,
More than you
there's,
could throw.
yeah,
It's insane.
I knew there were a lot, but I didn't realize there was that many. Especially, do you consider all of them? I know you could, are they all viable?
Pretty much. I mean, Wallet Connect's a strong name. And to be honest, when you go in, you have the opportunity as long as the chain is supported itself, we allow the user to connect that particular wallet. Um, there's just a lot of small, very, very small one person, two-person team wallets out there that, made really nice niche wallets for a particular chain, for example, right? And then you have your Phantoms, you have your MetaMasks and things like that. You have your Coinbase wallets and everybody and their mother making a new wallet.
Yeah, totally a tangent. Are there wallets that kind of can cover off on most of the bigger chains at this point?
Yeah, so there are wallets that do handle a lot of the chains. Again, it really comes down to your preference. Like if you want to support a particular community, user design, right? People appreciate a nice user experience when it comes into your wallet. Some people care more about less about the aesthetics and more about the functionality within the wallet, right? The access to different assets, as you just said, the ability to see transaction information, it really comes down to um, your preference at that point.
Can I use MetaMask for Near?
I don't believe so,
Okay.
but I'll have to double check that.
I was just curious. All right.
Near is
Either
actually
Atom or
one we're
something.
looking to add next. We're actually looking at getting a node set up for Near to deploy that within the next month or so.
I was in Lisbon in Portugal, whatever, maybe 4 or 5 months ago at the Near Foundation's their conference, NearCon. And I mean, the people
How
that
was
are
that?
they're totally all over it. So it reminds me of like Ethereum early days where people were just all over it. And it made sense. It's a good hybrid between the two if you want to go down that road. One of the last things I'm really curious about, because it can't be easy, and I think you kind of alluded to it just a little while ago when you're talking about trying to get keys from different jurisdictions around the world. How are you dealing with regulations in this space? Is it something you have to think about, or not so much?
We do have to think about it, especially when we're dealing with exchanges. We don't want to abuse or get banned from dealing with APIs, so we have to actually look through the requirements for particular APIs to work with, in a sense. Blockchain is not so much, super easy, straightforward, right? Deploy node, it's sovereign, it's public. You can just do what you'd like with those, but definitely dealing with exchanges to make sure that we're within the legal bounds to support its particular API. We do try to look for different, in particular, like contractors around certain regions who have access to certain exchanges to help us out as well, to get us keys and things like that. So we do tests like that way. But definitely is something on the forefront of our mind as we add exchanges. And it's definitely hard when exchanges are getting wiped off of the face of the planet. It seems like one by one, and then consolidating into something else. And then it's very incestual almost to an extent. If you were to say, like, for some reason one topples and another one, and then the rest are affected, it's very interesting to see it at that point. What is interesting though is learning how regulation works with taxes and accounting, for example, because what we've found is that working with different customers in different parts of the countries is that regulation is not concrete yet. It's still very liquid. It's still very fluid, and that rule sets are still coming in. So they have to be on their toes to change things on their side in order to serve their customers better. And they can change within a month and 2 months, things like that. So it's very interesting to see it through the eyes of other countries.
It is, and when I look and travel and talk to people about this, it seems like certain countries are moving forward with this, others are not. Others are a little more confusing on some of the rules and regulations that they're instilling. And so I think when you have that uncertainty, it creates a lot of unfortunate chaos and sort of stifles the innovation, in my personal opinion. But
Agreed.
so, all right, I do have one more. Coming off
Yeah.
of ETH Denver, what was the general sentiment from people about the way that things are moving forward in this space? If you were to sort of encapsulate, I know it's difficult to do, but what did it feel like coming out of that?
No, actually, I got a very good picture. So the, the bubble's growing. There's a lot of people there. It was nuts, actually. I was very surprised to see how many people were at this place building within the own ecosystem. It's like the bubble is expanding. The crypto is there to live. It's there for real. The media FUD is it's going to be FUD. It's there for a reason, right? It's to entertain, and there are people building awesome stuff. And the kind of main topic of the conference is Web 2 adoption in the next phase. Actually, from Vitalik, we stayed and watched him the one night. He was doing a lot of video. His user experience is huge. That was kind of, it's the adoption into the world of Web 2. So you have within this world of Web 3 and crypto, these companies building with each other and feeding each other and helping each other out and expanding the technology within. And then you have those similar to us who live on the fringes of the bubble, right? And you're looking to like, well, how do I expand this and make this, how do you make this adoptable into the world of Web 2, right? How do you get the real world to really function with this? And there was a few talks that that went into it and how they were approaching it. And that's pretty much what's happening is you have the bubble itself is growing. People are building and sharing and doing awesome things within with DAOs and different tech and privacy and all that. Even gaming was huge over there. And then you have those living on the fringes where like, well, how do I make this technology easily consumable by the rest of the world? At the same time, though, the rest of the world's like drowning a bank over here, and then they're blaming crypto over here, and it's like it's very rough if you're living on the fringes to drive adoption on that side. You have to be very careful on how you're approaching it and what customers you're trying to get to adopt and things like that. You have those who are more lenient and brands that are willing to work with you in that sense, and then you have those who are just like, I'm not touching this with a 10-foot pole. So
Awesome. My goodness. You're making me jealous because I really wanted to be there, but ended up going to a Web3. I had to do a talk at a Web3 conference in Toronto at the time, so I missed it. But all right, Carlos, anything else that you wanted to mention about the organization that you're working with or that you founded, or anything else related to that?
We'll be at FinTech Meetup in the area in Las Vegas next week, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. We have a booth, S53. Feel free to stop by if you're in town. Check us out. We'll be doing live demos, having discussions, and discussing our roadmap. And if you're interested and you would like to build our product, you can sign up for free, get started, 100 free live connections. You can have us installed in minutes, to be honest. It's not that hard. Instead of spending months building integrations, you can do it in an hour. That's hatchfi.co. Stop by, check it out. And no, that's it.
All right. Well, Carlos, again, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. You have an amazing perspective, and I love hearing about it. So thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right. Take care. Have a good one.
All right. Later.